Hola, and welcome to a new episode of the Ruthless Dog and Pony Show. Take two. The sound was so bad, and there were so many interruptions on our first presentation that we just, hi, Chloe. We just decided to just re-record the presentation, and we're gonna do it really briefly and touching some very important points. But essentially, this is episode 77. My name is Julio Panicello. I am the Dream Alchemist at Ruthless Painters. We are free-range art school atelier and gallery for 21st century romantics. With every episode, we reveal the theme of the next painting collection, so you can find out what we'll be painting next and the reason why. So we're just gonna dedicate these next, hopefully, 30 minutes or less, to present the new subject matter, the new theme for the next painting collection. We do this bi-weekly, so you can get inspired and join us in the next few sessions that we're gonna host either in person or online. So we're going to use some examples of paintings, and we're going to talk about how different artists use those subjects in a different time and also different times, and also talk about the stylistic concepts that were used in order to give you a much more like a menu of options, not only to render your painting visually, but also to think of the different styles that you could use. And you can just find you can find the video, the presentation on Instagram, on our YouTube channel, and also as a podcast. But essentially the reason why we're going to propose this presentation is because Chloe was in London catching up with artwork. She went to the summer exhibition at the Royal Academy and shared with us a painting that gives us the idea or the inspiration for the theme of the next collection. This is a painting by British artist Lee Mauser. It's titled Chips, and it depicts different plates of French fries and people sharing a table. Oh, thanks. People sharing a table and eating the French fries. So the theme of the next painting collection will be still lifes with French fries. We're going to paint French fries for several reasons. Number one, just because we love these paintings so much. It reminds us of moments that we have shared with friends, eating precisely that, French fries. And also the idea of comfort food, not only as a way of connecting with other people, but as the trigger of positive memories that we had when we were much younger. So I'm going to mention a couple of studies that were published a few years ago, linking the strength of our bonds with people when we were young, and how much we crave comfort foods today, and how, especially when we feel stressed and we feel sad and alone. So that's the origin of the theme, but also at the same time, coincidentally, we found this post on Instagram. We follow Amy Sedaris, and sometimes most of the time, her images are meant to be inspiring and infuse a sense of happiness, especially during dark times. So at the same time that Chloe sent us the image of the painting of French fries, we saw this on Amy Sedaris' feed, and we thought the universe was giving us confirmation to explore and use French fries as inspiration for our next painting collection. So I'm just going to give show a few examples of paintings of French fries. As you can imagine, it's not a subject matter that has been explored by artists since the beginning of time, but we did in fact find a couple of examples. The best example of painting of still life with French fries. It's this 1961 Wayne Thiebaud painting. Wayne Thiebaud lived to be 101. He passed away last year in December. So he's well known for painting realistic depictions of comfort food. And we didn't know that he actually painted French fries earlier in his career. So here's an example of how he used French fries in a composition that feels very interesting. We were just mentioning how elevated the focal point, which is the box of French fries, is compared to the upper part of the painting, the edge of the table or the surface that supports the French fries, and then the majority of the painting being this neutral tone, very rich, with a really sophisticated palette. So here's one example. It just gives you an idea or a suggestion about doing a still life with food that could be sitting on a table. You could be a close-up like the Amy Sedaris photograph. You could be something that it's further away, point of view being further away, and the focal point being very tiny compared to the scale of the pictorial space. So, and compositionally, you can arrange it in many creative ways. So this just gave us a lot of ideas. And then another example, I think that's the only contemporary or modern example. We showed this painting done in early 1700s, so 18th century. Still life with roasted chestnuts on a white plate resting on a stone ledge by Giacomo Cerruti. And we love this painting because there's such similarity and connection between this bowl of what we consider comfort food, the original comfort food, roasted chestnuts. I have childhood memories of eating roasted chestnuts on the street on October 31st each year, because that's Dia de los Muertos in Spain, also under a different name, a different holiday, but that's a very typical food that you eat specifically that day. I remember buying food on the street, buying roasted chestnuts. I remember my mom making roasted chestnuts for me on that day, that used to be cold October day, not anymore. But yeah, so early 1800s, a very classic but at the same time contemporary example of this food that triggers a lot of emotions. Stylistically and compositionally, a very balanced, very clean close-up of a bowl, a plate in this case, with the chestnuts on top, and then positioned in a very risque way on the ledge of the stone. So it's grounded on the stone, but it's dangerously approaching the point where the gravity, the point of gravity is going to tilt. Not to mention the playfulness of the chestnut that's outside of the bowl. There's a lot of rebellion and humor in this painting. So again, giving you a visual reference of a comfort food painting painted centuries ago, in which you could utilize, find inspiration in different aspects, visual aspects that were used for this painting, that you can incorporate to your own painting. Another example of an even earlier work, which contains maybe not comfort food, but the idea of something that maybe makes us feel happy. It's this 1600 painting. It's at the Norton Simon, a museum that's really close to us. It's a still life with cherries, strawberries, and gooseberries by Louis Mouillon. She was a very famous female painter at the time. She was French, she was well known and had great reputation. She was considered the best still life painter of her time. So we brought this for many reasons, not only because it's important to feature work by female artists at different times in art history. We're not used to that. Also because it's a painting that we can go and go see at the museum, and hopefully doing this collection will inspire you after you do the painting to go to the Norton Simon and see her work. King Charles I of England commissioned her to do a still life or purchased paintings by her. But you can see here that there's more than one focal point. There are three, I would argue even four focal points. So 3 different bowls, 3 different textures, 3 different fruits, and even this kind of like little outsider fruit on the table. In the same style, background represents the perfect framing for the colorful images or subjects, and then the ledge of the table is aligned with the bottom of the painting. So think of how you could render, represent, translate a bowl of French fries on your painting, and maybe use some ideas from this one. This is like pre-French fry era. Van Gogh's Still Life with Potatoes, which was painted in 1888. He was in France already, but a lot of researchers and academics make a huge or a very direct connection between this painting and the Potato Eaters, which he did at the beginning of his career in the Netherlands. So, point of view a little bit higher, balanced composition, focal point, it's centered. There's this beautiful yellow bowl that frames the painting. It's a painting inside of a painting, if you ask us. The difference or distinction between the surface where the bowl is and then the background, it's barely visible. There's a line higher on the bowl that marks the difference between this texturized, shiny wooden surface that reflects the light, and then the background that has similar tones, harmonious tones to the potatoes. And even though they're potatoes, and we could apply the same premise to our French fries, which we may think it's the same size or similar size, same color, and kind of like uniform color scale or color palette. You'll see that on these potatoes there's a huge range, a chromatic range between pinks and purples and grays and orange tones and dark reds. So it's a multicolored approach to something that feels like it's monochrome. So another example of potatoes. This is like a surprise. It was a surprise for us, but this is one of the reasons why we love doing this so much. Not only the presentations, but actually proposing themes that could trigger curiosity and finding out other artists doing the same subject matter. This is the Giacometti painting. Giacometti is associated with sculptors, but Alberto Giacometti also did paintings, and this is an example. We don't have the date, but we will find the date during our session. Still Life with Potatoes. Oh yeah, 1924, painted in 1924. Giacometti lived between 1901 and 1966. He was a Swiss painter, and that's a beautiful example, the reminiscent of the Van Gogh potatoes, but a different point of view, different color palette, similar composition. Instead of the bowl framing the entirety of the food, which was clear before creating this idea of a painting inside of a painting, the point of view is a little bit lower. Maybe he was sitting down, maybe it was a high table, and you can see that the rim of the bowl is hiding behind a pile of potatoes, creating a different dynamic in the composition. Not to mention that here there's not a perfect split between background and surface, but there are two angles on each side of the bowl that give you the illusion of this being in the corner of a table, in the corner of somewhere. So these little tiny changes or things make the painting much more interesting and full of dynamic, almost like kinetic energy. Um, and they make the difference between a painting that is interesting and a painting that is magical. So again, pre-French fry era. And I think that's pretty much it, except for this sculpture, Oldenburg sculpture, 1963, Claes Oldenburg, who passed away a few weeks ago on July 18th, and he was one of the main figures of the pop movement, and he was well known for creating sculptures out of artificial materials stuffed with other stuff of comfort food, ice cream, burgers, and also French fries. The Whitney Museum in New York has this in their permanent collection. It's not on view currently, but it's a oversized plate of French fries and some ketchup. So hopefully you have been inspired by this presentation to understand that comfort foods are not just happy foods, but they are extensions of our best memories when we were young. And in fact, talking about the connection between memories, emotion, and food, it's described in an article that we found, 2015 article at The Atlantic, in which they describe a study that they made with two groups of people that were divided. Yes, they were divided into a group of people that identified themselves as having really strong bonds with other people, friends and family, that were acquired when they were kids. So these are people that not only had strong bonds, but they were able to bond with other people easily, without any difficulties, and really finding a lot of things in common. And then the other group, they self-identified. These pauses are terrible. The other group of people self-identified with insecure, the idea of having insecure bonds. Okay, everything's happening right now. Everything is happening. So the other group of people were identified, or they self-identified with the idea of not having strong bonds with other people, or having difficulty establishing strong bonds with other people, having experiences in their childhood that didn't allow them to have that experience. So, well, guess what? They just gave French fries to both groups, and they realized that the group with the strongest bonds, emotional bonds, found the food much more flavorful and tastier than the group of people that didn't have strong bonds, or had difficulty establishing strong bonds with other people. Not only that, but they also found out, and this is the most surprising reason why we're doing this right now also, during this specific week, that people that self-identified as easily being able to establish strong bonds with others, they craved comfort food more in times of stress, sadness, or when they felt lonely, compared to the group of people with insecure bonds. So the beauty of this is that craving comfort food, based on this study, is a reflection of you having strong bonds with other people, emotional bonds. So how about that? We always associate this craving for comfort foods with something that's negative, or something that's bad, or something that has like there's a root issue there that makes you crave this kind of food. Well, it's totally the opposite. It's this emotional connection that happens when we're very young, and all the positive feelings that we associate with specific foods that makes us crave for those foods when we are stressed or feel very sad. So because the world's falling apart and everything's so stressful, and it's relentlessly stressful. So I think immediately we connected with the painting that Chloe sent to us, and we felt that this could be a great way of finding refuge. And then now, with all the knowledge that we have, reaffirming and also reaffirming this idea of being emotionally strong. So please join us tomorrow. We start the collection with the first webinar. It's remote. You can join from anywhere in the world, and we'll just continue doing or hosting sessions during the next 2 weeks to keep working on French fries still life. Thank you so much.